I'm Russ Mitchell. Tonight, a new move to try to stop the war. Senate Democrats want to take back the authorization they gave the president to invade Iraq. And a CBS News 60 Minutes exclusive. Hundreds of U.S. servicemen and women are protesting the war while they're fighting it.
It's simply just not working out anymore.
Also tonight, what kind of mileage is your car getting? The government says you're not getting what the sticker said you'd get. And when it comes to transportation, it doesn't get more basic than this. An idea whose time may have finally come.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening. Katie is off tonight. The Democrats are trying a new strategy in their battle with President Bush over the war in Iraq. After failing to push through a non-binding resolution opposing the war, Senate Democrats are now out to force the president to change the way the war is being fought. Here's our chief White House correspondent, Jim Axelrod.
Democrats looking for a politically effective way to oppose the war think they found a winner, rewriting the 4-year-old resolution that gave President Bush the power to put troops in Iraq in the first place. The idea started with Senator Joe Biden.
It does not abandon the troops. It does not cut off funding for the troops. It defines the mission.
The 2002 resolution gave the president authority to go to war, primarily to confront Saddam Hussein and dismantle his weapons of mass destruction program.
That mission is finished, done. There were no weapons. Saddam's gone. They are in compliance.
Democrats want a narrower mission, denying terrorists a safe haven in Iraq and training Iraqi troops to secure their own country. Fewer U.S. troops would be needed, and the drawdown could start early next year. Lee Hamilton, who co-chaired the Iraq Study Group, says this is the Democrats' best chance to oppose the war, but avoid divisive arguments on supporting the troops.
There are very formidable challenges in keeping the Democrats together on this. Anything that suggests you're undercutting the troops will not come close to getting a majority.
And Republicans are signaling that's exactly how they'll fight it.
There's really only, one way to end the war if that's what our Democratic friends want to do. That is to cut off the funding for the war.
The president's aides argue that back in 2002, Congress authorized the president to send troops to Iraq to enforce UN Security Council resolutions, and that since those resolutions are still in place, no new congressional authorization is necessary. Russ?
Jim, an interesting strategy. Is there any historical precedent to this?
Well, I suppose in rough terms. Congress eventually reversed the Gulf of Tonkin resolution that gave President Johnson the authority to escalate in Vietnam, but only after Richard Nixon was in office and only after a U.S. troop withdrawal had already begun. Russ?
Jim Axelrod at the White House, thank you very much. There is new opposition to the war tonight, and it comes from the very Americans fighting it, men and women in uniform. Hundreds of them are very publicly asking Congress to stop it. Lara Logan has this exclusive 60 Minutes report.
The fight in hostile Anbar province has been more deadly for U.S. forces than anywhere else in Iraq.
Oh, you got it.
Over 1,000 have been killed in this violent region west of Baghdad. And today, the military announced 3 more. That's part of the reason over 1,000 servicemen and women have done something normally unthinkable for the military. Protest a war they're in the middle of fighting. Their interviews will be on 60 Minutes this Sunday.
As a patriotic citizen who served 2 combat tours in Iraq, I just feel that this war, it's simply just not working out anymore, and soldiers are dying there every day.
It's a sentiment echoed by all of the service members who are part of this protest. We gathered some of them in Washington, but they had to be off base, out of uniform, and off duty to speak to us on camera. They've all sent a petition called Appeal for Redress to their individual members of Congress, letting them know that staying in Iraq will not work, and it's time for U.S. troops to come home.
Just because we volunteered for the military doesn't mean we volunteered to put our lives in unnecessary harm and to carry out missions that are illogical and immoral.
We volunteered to make a difference, not just be part of an experiment.
We spoke with soldiers from the 1st Cavalry who are currently serving in Baghdad. They acknowledged that the servicemen and women who signed the petition have the right to do so, but that doesn't mean they should.
I know what I'm here fighting for, to give the Iraqi people, some democracy and hope. So I am 100% behind this mission. You don't sign up to pick which war you get to go to.
There are going to be a lot of people who don't like what you're doing.
By volunteering, we've done more than about 99% of the population. And anybody who joined after 9/11 when the country was at a state of war, it's my opinion that nobody has the right to question that soldier's patriotism. Nobody.
Lara Logan, CBS News, Baghdad.
And as Laura said, you can see more of her report this Sunday evening on 60 Minutes right here on CBS. Many servicemen and women wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan are treated at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington. Defense Secretary Robert Gates went there today following reports of substandard living conditions, including mold and roaches. Gates said hospital officials will be held accountable for the, quote, unacceptable conditions. In the presidential race, the first Democrat to declare he was in today said he's out. Former Iowa Governor Tom Vilsack. The reason, he said, in a word, money. He doesn't have enough. And now to the top of the Democratic pack. National political correspondent Gloria Borger has the latest on the Clinton-Obama face-off.
And we say,
in the rain, with no umbrella and no ambiguity, Barack Obama told a crowd in Texas today that he's the man to change politics.
I know Washington needs to change, and I think I can be an agent for change in Washington.
And Hillary Clinton, a veteran of 2 presidential elections and a nasty battle against her husband's impeachment, today made no bones that she's ready to rumble.
Now, as you may have heard, I'm in, and I'm in to win, and I'm in to change our country.
But with Obama a growing threat to those aspirations, the aggressive Clinton campaign was looking for a chance to take him down a peg. The opportunity came this week when movie mogul David Geffen, who has deserted the Clintons for Obama, called his former friends liars in the New York Times. Everybody in politics lies, but they do it with such ease, it's troubling. The spat is an early look at what we're in for. The Clinton camp has a take-no-prisoners attitude. The Obama campaign is struggling with this. How can you call for an end to partisan bickering, knowing you need to hit back if your opponent kicks you around?
I think it's hard for the Obama campaign, but it really rests on the candidate talking to voters, convincing them that he wants to stay above the fray.
Obama and Clinton both tried to do that in an old political con. Act like you're above it all while your campaigns slug it out in the muck. Republicans are loving it.
It's great, isn't it? I love to see it when it happens on the other side.
Democratic presidential candidate John Edwards is also loving it. He's waiting in the wings while the 2 top contenders slug it out. Russ.
Okay, Gloria Borger in Washington, thank you very much. Russia today praised its armed forces as its relations with the U.S. seem to be sliding back to the Cold War era. In public, both countries are trying to limit the damage, but it's all too clear that disputes on several fronts are pulling the 2 powers apart, as we hear from Elizabeth Palmer in Moscow.
Russians have no shortage of wars to commemorate. Today, Defense of the Fatherland Day, they honored their military heroes at the Kremlin. And in Russian schools, there were mock drills. But the rhetoric coming out of Russia these days is real and aggressive. Earlier this month, President Putin accused America of using overwhelming military force that threatens to plunge the whole world into conflict. In an exclusive interview with CBS News, Russia's last Cold Warrior, Mikhail Gorbachev, agreed.
The last straw was when Defense Secretary Gates said America needs large armed forces to defend itself against the unpredictability of Russia and China. It seems that America sees us as an enemy again.
Russia's generals were furious with U.S. plans to put radar bases into the Czech Republic and a new missile defense system into Poland. So much so that Russia's threatening to build new missiles and point them at Europe. U.S. National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley's in Moscow to cool the rhetoric. But defense analyst Pavel Felgengauer says it won't be easy.
After 9/11, Putin believed that in exchange for supporting the United States and personally George Bush in the fight on terrorism, the West will grant us our sphere of influence.
Putin believed America wouldn't interfere in Russia's backyard. Instead, NATO, the U.S.-European military alliance, has crept right up to Russia's borders.
Which makes Putin and his cohorts in the Kremlin very, very angry.
No one believes Russia is actually angry enough to go to war, but the confrontation has already spilled over into business. Russia's national airline, Aeroflot, has announced it's suspended negotiations to buy 22 new passenger jets from Boeing, worth $2.5 billion. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, Moscow.
There is much more CBS News straight ahead. Up next, CBS News in Focus, how a major airline went from red to black by overhauling the labor management relationship. And later, a wheel, a seat, and a couple of feet. Steve Hartman rediscovers the unicycle in tonight's Assignment America. CBS News in Focus. Tonight, a U-turn in the air. The airline industry in this country is making a comeback. Between 2001 and 2005, the major airlines lost $35 billion. But last year, they turned a profit, an estimated $2 to $3 billion. American Airlines alone earned $231 million, its first yearly profit in 5 years. For American and its workers, it was a matter of going from adversaries to partners. Here's Bill Whitaker.
With well-paying U.S. industrial jobs flying overseas these days, American Airlines is keeping 7,000 workers at its mammoth Tulsa maintenance facility busier than ever by turning old business ways upside down.
It's amazing when you're in a survival mode, how you can change.
After 9/11, American was about to follow other big carriers into bankruptcy. But American did the unthinkable here in Tulsa. Management and the Transport Workers Union buried the hatchet and decided to work together to manage the plant.
Sharing those decisions with the union just went against the grain.
There had to be a lot of skepticism.
Well, there still is skepticism.
But in a leap of faith, the workers gave major concessions, cuts in salaries and benefits. In return, they got equal say in running the facility and a promise to save every job if they save the company money.
This is a big old boat that's got to turn. It's slow, but at least they're listening.
Listening because money talks. Instead of buying new tail cones, workers now make them, saving $205,000 on each. Dull tools and drill bits.
They are $54 a piece, and they used to be thrown out.
Just thrown out?
Yes.
Now they're resharpened, saving American almost $1 million. The greatest savings come from their biggest job, completely overhauling these big planes.
It used to take 800 American mechanics 23 days. Now half that number of mechanics can finish the job in only 13 days.
Congratulations. American CEO Gerard Arpey recently announced the Tulsa workers saved the company more than $500 million last year. They're so cost efficient, foreign and domestic carriers now outsource their maintenance to the American Airlines plant in Tulsa.
It was easier for me to argue with them and blame them and cuss them, and now I'm part of them.
Is there a lesson here at American for other American companies?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We should not give up on our people.
In other words, do it the American way. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Tulsa.
Up next, those supposedly fuel-efficient hybrid cars, why they may not live up to the hype. President Bush wants us to cut our gas consumption, and today he got a demonstration of vehicles powered only by electricity. The batteries are tucked in the trunk. Hybrids are catching on. About 250,000 were sold last year. That's up more than 20% from the year before. But Sandra Hughes reports on a new test that shows the fuel efficiency of hybrids and standard cars is not as good as you might think.
There's no doubt about it. Hybrids are hot these days.
How many hybrids are going to be pulling up to the red carpet?
This year we're going to have over 30 green cars.
Matt Peterson arranged for Penelope Cruz to be chauffeured to the Oscars this weekend in a Toyota Prius hybrid.
Getting out of a short black Prius is a lot cooler than getting out of a long black limo.
But it turns out what's cool isn't as fuel efficient as consumers were led to believe.
I feel like I've been lied to.
Maya Krejci suspected it, and the EPA confirmed it with new testing that shows actual mileage is worse than what's on the sticker. New government ratings for the Toyota Prius show instead of 60 miles per gallon in the city, the car actually gets 48, 20% decline. Highway mileage dropped 12% from 51 miles per gallon to 45 miles per gallon. The Honda Civic Hybrid went from 49 miles per gallon in the city to 40, and from 51 on the highway to 45. Analysts say it's not the cars that have changed, it's the test itself. The new test reflects the way real people drive, with sudden stops, starts, using air conditioning and cruising at higher speeds.
The old methodology, for example, on the highway used a top highway speed of 60 miles per hour and an average highway speed of 48 miles per hour. Obviously, nobody drives that speed.
It's not just hybrids. Under these new standards, every car gets dinged. You can find out your car's true mileage at www.fueleconomy.gov. You'll find while hybrids do cost more than other cars, up to $4,000 more, they still get the best mileage on the road. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And if you can't afford those wheels, how about this one? Non-polluting, energy efficient. Steve Hartman takes you for a spin in tonight's Assignment America. It looks like unicycles are gaining in popularity outside the big top. Steve Hartman has tonight's Assignment America.
When I was a kid, I used to think dodgeball was scary. Then recently, I heard about Mount Bethel Elementary in Atlanta, where the most popular sport is now bike riding. Half a bike riding.
What do you have against the other wheel?
Oh, nothing. I just like one wheel better.
It's cool looking, and not that many people can do it.
Looking good, nice.
Gym teacher Chuck Jones started this unicycle club. He says it's great exercise.
Excellent.
Builds self-esteem.
There we go.
And not nearly as dangerous as it looks.
It's really safer than riding a bicycle, and it's an easier thing to throw in the car than packing your bicycle, for example.
Oops.
Oops. That didn't happen.
Chuck says at least when you fall on your feet. And once you get the basics down, the sky's just the beginning. Wait till you see how these wheels have revolved.
There's like different kinds of unicycles now, right?
Right. There are giraffes, which are really tall, and three-wheeler like Tim is riding over there.
Lifelong unicyclist John Drummond,
it's all in the head, you can do this,
and his still learning wife, Amy, own one of the largest unicycle stores in the country, unicycle.com.
You're riding along.
They have unicycles you can shift.
You take your foot, push it in.
Off-road unicycles. Even, look, Mom, two hands unicycles.
Handlebars.
It's been clocked at 23 miles an hour. That's really fast.
That's really fast.
Really fast.
So are sales. They did over $1 million last year.
Is the unicycle business kind of cyclical?
It's good all year long, but at Christmas time it really peaks. We probably do 40% of our volume. And
that was a joke.
Cyclical.
While John catches up with the rest of us,
sorry,
let me move to the best part.
I am slow.
Because there have been so many advances in design and performance, unicycles are now going places Bozo would have never dreamed of. Places the flying Wallendas would have never dreamed of. People who are really into this say right now unicycling is where skateboarding was in the 70s before it took off. Moms of the world, get ready to close your eyes.
When you took the practice class and aptitude test. That was Chris Holm, top unicycle rider in the world. A man who readily admits he has more scars than skin.
I say, did I miss it or did I not see you on one of those unicycles?
No, you didn't miss that.
Okay.
I was not on one.
Just checking.
I will never be on one.
I understand. I get it. Okay. What do you got next week?
Okay. First, what has to be one of the longest running poker games in the country. 8 guys, 50 years. They're such diehards, when one of them had to go into assisted living recently, they just moved the game there. Or Chong Li had 10 pet koi fish at his Chinese restaurant. He says they were good luck until the government confiscated them. Why were they taken? And after 7 months, why is he now getting them back? Or finally, a viewer suggestion. Barbara Sanvin of New London, Minnesota says we should check out America's coldest, most isolated senior center. It's in the middle of a frozen lake in northernmost Minnesota. Don't forget your heating pad. So those are your 3 choices. To vote or suggest a story, go to cbsnews.com and click on Assignment America. And starting tonight, you can also vote by sending a text message from your cell phone. Just send a text to 81818 and put either the number 1, 2, or 3 in the message line to indicate which story you want me to cover. The story with the most votes plays right here next Friday night.
Tonight's Assignment America segment is sponsored by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
Monday on the CBS Evening News, an experimental new procedure that can repair a heart problem without open heart surgery. Join us as we begin a special series, Matters of the Heart. Sunday on Face the Nation, Bob Schieffer's guests will be California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and Democratic presidential hopeful John Edwards. Katie's back on Monday. I'm Russ Mitchell, CBS News in New York. I'll see you back here on the Evening News Sunday night and on the early show Monday morning. Good night.